It was the invention of the telescope at the start of the 17th century that led to a new world of discovery and to the discovery of new worlds. Imagine the immense joy and pride that Simon Marius, the German astronomer, must have felt when, on the 8th of January 1610, he discovered the moons of Jupiter. Then imagine the bitter disappointment he must have felt when he discovered that Galileo Galilei had beaten him to that discovery by just one day. This, by the way, is a drawing Galileo did in 1612 of Jupiter's moons with a fixed star for reference. And that wasn't the only time there was a race in space with a winner, and unfortunately a loser. This is a story about an Englishman called John Couch Adams. Now, 50 years had passed since the discovery of Uranus, and it had been noted that it had moved mysteriously. Sometimes it was going faster than usual, and sometimes it was going a bit slower. Adams, who was just a schoolboy, was fascinated by this and was convinced there must be another planet out there causing Uranus to move like this. He formulated his life's plan and chose to read maths at university, and then dedicated his life to working out the equations that would help show him where this new planet was. So after 3 years at Cambridge University and 2 years of hard work after that, Adams had done it. He'd found the position of the new planet. All he had to do now is look there. Unfortunately, he didn't have a telescope. So he got in touch with George Airy, the Astronomer Royal at Greenwich Observatory, and asked him to look for him. However, Airy didn't know who Adams was, and so he just wasn't interested. It seems Airy was a very stubborn man and didn't like anything that might mess with the order of things or his normal daily routine. So Adams twice went all the way to Greenwich to go and see Airy, but both times he was sent packing. Poor Adams left his notes with Airy, hopeful that he might read them. Over in France at the same time, in 1845, a man called Urbain Jean-Joseph Le Verrier was doing exactly the same work as John Couch Adams. There's no way the two of them could have known about the other. The difference was, though, Le Verrier published his work. Back in Britain, George Airy, the Astronomer Royal, has read Le Verrier's works and noticed they have the same findings as John Couch Adams. This spurs him into action. So he contacts James Chalice at the Cambridge Observatory and asks him to look for the new planet. But Chalice is sceptical. He's a busy man, and besides, he hasn't got lots of information. So he has a look, he makes some notes, but his search lacks any urgency. Back in France, Le Verrier publishes that he now knows exactly where the new planet should be. The date is the 31st of August, 1846, and Chalice has been searching the skies for an entire month already. Le Verrier, like Adams, now suffered the same problem. In the same way Adams had been ignored by the Greenwich Observatory, Le Verrier was being ignored by the Paris Observatory. The British were still looking for the new planet, and Le Verrier could not afford to wait any longer. On the 18th of September 1846, Le Verrier gave up on the French observatory and wrote to the German one in Berlin instead. 5 days later, Johann Galle received Le Verrier's letter, looked at the skies as instructed, and instantly found the new planet. Le Verrier had done it. Back in Britain, a lot of fuss was made. Poor John Couch Adams. But Adams was a gallant loser, and he congratulated Le Verrier on his discovery. But as if to add salt to the wound, Chalice looked back through his notes and found that he had seen the new planet twice, 6 weeks earlier, but didn't realise what he was looking at. Chalice suggested a name for the new planet. He went for Oceanus. Galle, over in Berlin, suggested Janus. But Le Verrier suggested Neptune, before changing his mind and deciding that he wanted to call it Le Verrier after himself. Everyone else decided that they thought they would go with Neptune. Now, there's a very interesting epilogue to this tale. Remember that picture that Galileo did in 1612? Well, that fixed point there, that star, wasn't a star at all. We now know that that was Neptune. Galileo had seen it 230 years before all of this and didn't even know what he was looking at. Now, where did I put my coffee?